Welcome to the 290 Mo podcast. I appreciate your time. If you could introduce yourself for my viewers and listeners.
This is Hectic, the Latin Assassin, from Brownsville, Brooklyn, New York, up in the building. God
So,
Division
so,
member, Flea artist member. Yeah, I could catch me on Instagram, hecticthelatinAssassin.com, the way it's written.
mhm.
Um, got a single out, got some videos out, projects out. So, we're gonna get into all that.
For sure, man. Uh, before we get into the present time, man, we're gonna start at the beginning of your story, man. Now, you mentioned New York. You probably my first guest from New York, man. So, if you don't mind, talk to me about what was it like growing up out there for you?
Well, I grew up in Brownsville in Brooklyn, which at that time I'm an 80s baby. At that time it was one of the and still is, one of the roughest neighborhoods in Brooklyn.
Hmm.
We lived in the projects, was coming up, it was pretty much at that time.
Hmm.
Also, then, as I got older, lived in Sheepshead Bay. It was another part in Brooklyn. Lived down in the Bronx for a little bit. Obviously, we had Hot 97 and everything like that. So, listening to that. And then my dad, he was like a house DJ, kind of club DJ. So he had mad vinyls. And, he used to get me vinyls. Like I got like Wu-Tang's first album on vinyl. I got like Biggie's first single
Still
before.
got them?
Yeah, still got
Oh
them. I
yeah,
got Biggie's first single
that's gold.
that was on the soundtrack that is not he wasn't even on Bad Boy yet. He was on
Hmm.
Uptown. The single was on Uptown,
Hmm.
whatnot. And a couple other things. So, you know, was big inspiration from those guys and Biggie and Wu-Tang and Nas and all that.
Hmm.
And then my family ended up moving to Florida, went out to
Hmm.
Florida. Obviously it was a different atmosphere, had to adjust with the way Florida is compared to the way New York is, especially where I was living at, because I was living in a small town. So, Port St. Lucie, Florida, with a Met Spring train. So, you know, and then I had a friend of mine that, was like a family member, and he was older than me, and he would rap and he would freestyle, and he always would be over the house, so he would always try to be like, yo, jump in, jump in, jump in, and try to get me to jump in. And so then I started writing,
Hmm.
and then and then I had met my partner, Gamble's the Lucky Bastard, and we
Shout
started
out.
writing together. Yeah, shout out to him. And that's my best friend, my brother. We known each other for over 25 years. You know what I mean? So I grew up with him since high school.
Hmm.
So I was 15 years old. And we was writing. Um, and the rest was history. You know what I mean? Had a couple, you know, obviously got married, had some kids, got divorced, remarried with my wife. We have a child. Shout out to her, man. She does my merch. She supports my music heavy.
That's what's up.
So shout out to her. And shout out to Run the City Prince. That's her company. Where she does prints, she does artist packages. She has done merchandise for other independent artists coming up.
Hmm.
You, if they wanted shirts, hoodies, whatever, she had a package for that. But, so and then we just did our thing, and then coming up, we was young. It's like, and we went through some crossroads where we would have a studio and then not have a studio to go to, or not have connections for beats and stuff. So there was a long time where it was like on and off, start, stop, start, stop, start, stop, because we just didn't have the resources to do what we needed to do.
Hmm.
So, you know what I mean? Now, do. So
For
kind of
sure.
reintroduced to that. Just short and sweet. You know what I
For
mean?
sure, for sure. Now, before we get into, you know what I'm saying, like you started how y'all started writing and stuff, but before we get there, You know what I'm saying? Talk to me about some of your early aspirations. You know what I'm saying? Like before the music, did you like inspire to be anything else, like a basketball player? Like you mentioned, you know what I'm saying? They doing
Um,
spring training, or did you play baseball or anything? Like what was it?
we used to play baseball outside, play football. I'm Puerto Rican, so
Mhm,
baseball is something that we always played.
for sure.
Uh, in the streets, we played football. Like I remember, when I was a little kid, I used to crack a joke because we would have Mr. Softy come by with the ice cream truck. So I used to want it to be the drive the ice cream truck, or we had like in our projects we literally had a candy man, and he would just come down, and he had with a cart, whole bunch of candy that he would sell, stuff like that. But as far as like really like aspirations of like being something probably outside of like a baseball player when I was growing up, I never really like, you know been like a cop or a doctor. Maybe a lawyer was probably the closest thing that, I could probably say.
Hmm.
A lot of people said I had the gift of gab, so a lawyer was one thing.
Hmm.
Yeah. I was also like the clown, like in the family, crack always the one cracking jokes and you know what I mean, stuff
Hmm.
like that.
For sure. Now another thing I want to know, man. Once you start writing, man, what exactly are you writing about? Like, what is some of that early subject matter about, man? What are you talking about? What are you putting, you know what I'm saying, on wax?
I mean, obviously at first we was just writing and replicating what we would hear
Mm,
and throw a little bit of ourselves in there and what we were going through at the time. And, especially like now, when I did Life is Always Hectic Part One, which was like a reintroduction back in 23, that was like straight boom bap, hard bars in your ear. But then, I have a versatile side to where I like to, part two is more grounded, talked about my life, talked about life struggles, did a song about my wife. I have featured on songs where, it's trap music and stuff. So, I'm very, I've done a song with a Spanish vibe. I've thrown some, I'll throw some Spanish words in my lyrics, as well. So, very versatile, and I very try to, keep it on topic, whatever kind of topic it is. I remember one time we did a song, it was seven of us, and we did the seven deadly sins, and each one of us was a sin.
that
And
sounds dope. You gotta send me that.
yeah, everyone was a sin, and we talked about the sin. I'm trying to think of which one I got. I think it was
That's
greed.
a dope concept for
Yeah, I think
perspective
it was
too, man.
greed.
I might jack that, man.
Yeah, I think greed was the one that I did. One did gluttony, and you know what I mean. Like it was the whole bunch of different. That's what we did and talked about like that, or like a story of someone. Like that. So, take certain different topics. So, like I said, talk about our life. Talk about I have a song called My Block where we talk about being on the block, what the block was like. You know what I mean? Even as a kid, not even, whatnot. And so, I try to keep it versatile, but also stay true to myself of what, I've always done.
Hmm. For sure, for sure. Definitely stay true to yourself, man. Now, you mentioned, you know what I'm saying, a whole bunch of like real life situations in your music. And what I want to know is how much, you know what I'm saying, do you gauge how much of your real life that you put in the music? Like, how do you, is there a line between the art and the music, or is your life and the music one and the two? Like, do you always bring them together?
Yeah, I always try to give a piece of it in the music to give them me, or there's a lot of times where I could give them bars, but then also in the same verse drop some knowledge,
Mm,
or and not or whatever, about just like life, like where I say, got to invest in yourself, play your cards right, you'll be investing in wealth. You know what I mean? Like, or whatever, that's just an example. You know what I mean? Or so I try to, you know give as much as me. It's hard to, I know, especially as men, to let their feelings out and let everything, but it's something about music that it just lets you do it.
For sure.
Um, you know what I mean? And I, try to be as much authentic as I can be, and be myself and not afraid to let people know about what I went through and stuff because other people's been through better, other people's been through worse.
Hmm.
And there's some people that probably went through the same thing and had to relate, or maybe the same situation, but something was different. I mean, they can relate or whatnot,
Hmm.
you know. And also let them know that, as you're alive, there's still hope and, you can always make a change.
For sure. Definitely, definitely. Always time to help make a change, man. Now, you mentioned, you know what I'm saying, it being times being in between studios or trying to find somewhere to record or find beats. Now that you're, you know what I'm saying, in your career, what's your creative process like now? Are you do you stick to one studio or one engineer? Do you record yourself at the crib? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Do you normally upgrade the lick? Like what's it like now?
I have a studio that I go to, an engineer that I have. I also record at the crib, but he's pretty much has done the mixing and mastering as well as the recording. Shout out to LCP Studios,
Shout out.
my child. So, that has got stable or whatnot. Got to work with a lot of different artists, network, went out and did shows in other cities and ciphers and was able to network with so many other tremendous artists that are trying just like me to just get on and was able to do tracks and produce and meeting producers and working with producers from overseas and I have a producer Dr. G who you know, we known since the MySpace days. And, now he's worked with a lot of legends, but when we met him, he was just starting up. And, even though now he's at a great level, he still works with us. He still, he never changed up on us.
That's what's up.
So, my whole creative process is just, I have the way to get beats, from different producers. I have a lot of different avenues and worked with a lot of great people. I have a lot of great relationships. Able to go to the studio, know of other great people that engineer, mix, and master. So God forbid, if I don't have my own, engineer, mix, and master, I have other people I could send it to. Um, Obviously, there's features I've done to where, I sent it to them and they mix and master it because it was their song. Um, Shooting videos, shout out to LCP Media, shout out to I Get Adam Media, shout out to Thriving Era. I each have a video coming out one when I speak, which is my new single featuring Black Poet, produced by Amadeus 360 the Beat King and Walk Through Storms, which is produced by Dr. G. He's the producer I was talking about. And I Get Out of Media and the infamous Amadeus and the Punchline Academy, salute to them. They were able to shoot, they shot that video. That'll be coming soon. Shout out to Black Poe. And Walk Through Storms, Thriving Era shot that. Shout out to Tyler. So, I do have people, you know, in my corner now, or whatnot that I've met that I'm more stable now with the recording and videos and met with promoters that have a good relationship with
Mm.
to do shows and I'll be June 10th in Miami at the Cats Lounge. I'll be co-headlining for Kid Kid. A lot of things coming. I just opened up for Conway the Machine this past Sunday in New York. And I've done other shows last year. Opened up for some artists, did some shows where it was just underground artists, and just trying to do everything I can to, get my music out there and shout out to Pendulum Inc., which is a rhyming school and I'm a student there as well, learning more about the craft and the culture and
Oh, you doing it for
the
real? You
life.
in rhyming school?
Yeah. Yeah, I am. Shout out to Pendulum Inc. Long live lyricism.
That's
And
what's up.
it was run by like Mickey Fats, rapper, Chilla Jones, the artist, which is also another battle rap artist, and a lot of dope artists that graduated from there. And there's a lot, to learn. A lot of celebrities that come on there and give lectures. Method Man, Remy Ma, R.A. the Rugged Man, a couple others, um, that go on exhibit that's been on there, and they'll give, lectures and lessons on
Right.
like cadence and all types of things.
Right, for real. And those are type of lessons, man, that you can't, you know what I'm saying, you can't get them in the streets, you know what I'm saying?
No,
Like certain things, you know what I'm saying, you gotta, if you really serious about your craft, you gotta invest in it, man. And that's one thing
exactly.
I tell everybody, no matter what field you in, you gotta be willing to invest in yourself, man. Because if you invest in yourself, ain't nobody else gonna invest in you, man.
No,
Sure.
no, no. And if you do it right, you'll be able to get paid,
Right.
invest in what, and then it doesn't stop. Then you still invest in
Right.
this or that to make
For
sure
sure.
that you're straight. At the end of the day, everyone's goal is to do this and not have to work a 9 to 5.
That's
You know what I mean? Don't have to worry about, you know, whether you become the biggest artist known to man or not. You can still do this and not have to work a 9 to 5, if you do it right.
for sure.
So, and that's the ultimate goal, obviously.
Now, let me ask you another question about your creative process, man. I was going through your music, man. You got a little bit of something for everybody, man. A little bit of everything. So what I want to know is, when you're creating music, is it always a vibe, or do you go into the studio like, I need one for the radio, I need one for the gas, I need one for them late nights, I need a party song, or is it just always a vibe when you make music?
It's a vibe, and it's a vibe on, with the different producers, and when I hear the beats. And when I hear the beats, I kind of know, like, okay, with this one, this is the type of beat to take it here.
Mhm.
This is the type of beat that can play on the radio. This is the type of beat where it has to be a topic. This is the type of beat that I can hear about a female. This beat here needs it'd be dope, a DJ scratching on the hook. This beat right here, it'd be dope, a female or a male singer. Now I gotta come up with what I'm gonna do with them sing, what it's gonna be. So a lot of the times, with producers, I listen to the creative process. I listen to the beat. The beat talks to me and lets me know where do I need to go. And that's why a lot of times, when I talk with producers, it's like, okay, let me get your link, let me get this so I can hear it. And, when I hear it, I know like, okay, this is good for this. This is
Mhm.
good for that. This is good for
Mhm.
this, or whatnot. Like I did a song for my wife. And when I first got that beat, I didn't hear the hook part at first. So when I heard it, just had this feeling like, oh man, that's an uppity beat. And then when I heard the whole thing, I was like, all right, this is the type with the hook and everything. This is the type of song that is about a female. So we're gonna, I'm gonna turn it into this,
Mhm.
whatnot. I made it about my wife, but I would have turned it, even if I was single, I would have turned it into like a good feel female song.
Mhm.
That's what I heard.
Mhm.
So that's pretty much a lot of the process, but also knowing that I need that. So, I listen to and knowing that like, all right, I need the radio joint or what can play on the radio and get the radio edits and what's I need a song where, you know, I would love a female on and we're talking about this or talking about that or whatever. I need something where we're gonna talk about, you know, this or that, or having a song called Play to Win, and we're going to talk about different ways of how you win, you know, things like that.
Hmm.
So that's pretty much a lot. The beat has a lot to do with my process.
For sure. Who would you say your target audience is if you have them?
Definitely, I would say my target audience would be, in the 30s, 40s, because obviously me being a more boom bap rapper, that would, those are the type of age demographic that would listen to it. But I also know music evolves and it happens every day. And, even when I was listening to boom bap when I was growing up, people were hating that music too.
Hmm. Yeah, it happens to every generation. Like
It happens in every generation. They used to hate it, and all we used to hear was they're stealing the beats from all these old
they,
songs from the 50s and the 60s and the 70s.
right.
They're not creative. They're just taking old songs and
Just
recreate.
imagine everything that's on the radio right now is gonna be old school one day.
Yeah, so and you see it now where there's a
Yeah,
you can hear
yeah.
some beats and it's like "Nuck if you buck" beat
Yeah.
or this like so now it's even
Well, it's
hitting
like the
some of that
generation, like these
80s.
kids have no idea who Lil Wayne is. Like they
No,
don't
they don't.
understand like how valuable he is to the culture.
But then you can also see the similarities because there's a lot of artists that are using samples and beats from our time,
Hmm.
the 80s, the 90s, the early 2000s,
Hmm.
where they're bringing it back. Like I said, I forgot who did it. The one chick where they redid like the Nuck If You Buck
Hmm.
or whatnot. They kind of did another one where they took Wu-Tang's Cream,
Hmm.
stuff like that. When that was happening with the older generation, they didn't like that either.
Hmm.
So like I said, I understand everything evolves and people, listen. Obviously, sometimes it's not my cup of tea, but at the same time, listening to the genres of the trap and the drills, there and the people, and a lot of the artists that rap nowadays, a lot of them are nice,
Hmm. For sure.
or a lot of them are nice at what they do. You know what I mean? So, you know, yes, there's some that are not, or some that, it could sound like the same, but you have the some that stand out and are nice, you know what I mean, for what they're doing. And
Facts.
that's dope. Because, like I said, everything evolves, whether you like it or not, everything evolves. People have to accept that. But also, you know, got to remember the culture, got to remember from where it started. And it's one thing that I wish that this generation, it's like they don't pay homage to the people before them. Kind of like you said, they don't even know who Lil Wayne was.
Hmm.
Listen, when we were listening to Lil Wayne was part of Hot Boys.
Hmm.
He wasn't even Lil Wayne yet. You know what I mean? Like when I was first listening to Lil Wayne, he wasn't the Lil Wayne that he was when he hit stardom. He was part of a group.
For sure.
You know what I mean? And then blew up.
Hmm.
So people, but a lot of people don't know. Not only know him, know his backstory. Like
Hmm.
do your history. It's good. Pay homage. You know what I mean? You wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them.
That's a fact, man. That's a fact. Now, give me your opinion on your peers in this industry that you're a part of, man. You know what I'm saying? When you're out in the studios and doing these shows and going state to state, what's the vibes from the other artists that's in this industry that you're a
Uh,
part of?
Very, obviously, with everything there, there's always some bad apples and um, they're definitely in every business. There could be ugly things, politics, all that. It's where any companies, anything. But I mean, I've been to a lot of shows and met a lot of people that are great people, genuine people, and are just as working hard and trying to get on. People, whether they're, you know, just starting out too, or, you know, just getting it like like their situation is getting better,
Hmm.
or people that's been doing it and is nice but just hasn't had the real opportunity, should be in a different spot, you know what I mean? Like and to meet a lot of humble people and stuff has been dope. And like I said, networking. Shout out to someone like Prime Prolific, known him for a long time, but he always s- gives knowledge and spreads love, and there's a lot of love within, people I met, and wanting to do songs with each other, whether it's for my project, whether it's for their project, meeting producers, you know, or exchanging fans, and now people that listen to me listen to them, and or vice versa.
That's what's up.
You know what I mean?
For
So
sure.
it's been a great vibe. Like I said, there's always some people that are, I mean, not people, but like I said, in
Mhm.
the business, there's always an ugly side to every business.
That's a fact. That's a fact, man.
You know what I mean? So, and there's always politics in every business. Even artists that are in the industry deal with that stuff.
That's
So,
a fact. For sure.
but the experiences has been great. Met a lot of great people, a lot of great promoters, a lot of great producers, a lot of people that done different things, that do different things. Rap, make beats, mix and master, do
Mhm.
this. So a lot of different connections too. So it's been awesome,
That's what's up, man. That's what's up.
you know.
Now I got a couple more questions before I let you get up out of here, man. Um, Now for anybody who may be watching or listening to this interview and hearing your voice or seeing you for the first time, point them to one project, one song, one video, one interview, one live performance, something that they can go see, watch, listen to, and get the full effect of you, or why they should continue to listen to you.
Um, I mean, I could name a bunch. I mean, you guys, Life is Always Hectic Part One. Go listen to Bravehearts. Listen, I'm the first verse on there. Part two, there's a lot of one of a kind, my block. Um, just go check out my link tree.
Hmm.
Is the best thing I would say. Because
Hmm.
right now my APK is under construction.
Hmm.
Also, I'm waiting for these videos that are going to be done so they could be on there. But go check out my link tree.
Hmm.
And I would say that let you guys choose for yourself, because you would see me on some grind mode ciphers where I had some sick verses on there. Um, so I that's what I would mainly say is go to my link tree and let them pick. Because for me, you know, everything from the part to now and where I'm at now and what I know now, I wish I could tell now back then what I know now. But, definitely. And check out the new single, When I Speak, featuring Black Poet. Um, you know, that's the last track I've dropped. Video coming soon. Shout out to Infamous Amadeus.
Shout out.
I get Adam Media shooting the video. And shout out to Amadeus 360, the Beat King on the beat. Go listen to that. Go listen to Bravehearts on part one.
For
Go
sure, for sure,
listen to
man.
One of a Kind on part two. Go listen to America on part two for the people that deal with mental health, and people that are just, about the world itself and positivity. Go listen to America.
For sure, man. Definitely, definitely, man. Well, I'm definitely fucking with the music, man. I appreciate you coming through. I appreciate your time. It's the most valuable thing we got. Before you get up out of here, man, let the people know where they can find you on social media, where they can find the music, and where they can work with you. And when you ever in Chicago, make sure you hit my line so you can come sit on the couch, man.
I definitely will. My brother goes to Chicago a lot. He has some friends out there in Chicago. So if I'm out there, I definitely will hit you up. Yeah, I can see Hectic, Hectik, the Latin Assassin, The. Hectic the Latin Assassin on Instagram. Hectic from BK. The same way the rap name been spelled, Hectic. That's my Twitter. Hectic Negron Jr. is my Facebook. Everywhere else is Hectic the Latin Assassin. I'm on all digital platforms. Um, and like I said, the EPK will be out soon. Be on the lookout for the videos. Want to give a shout out to God Division. You can go to goddivision.com. Check check me out there. Check the roster out there. You could go to runthecityprints.com and you can get Hectic merchandise, Hectic the Latin Assassin merchandise. And yeah, and then just keep hit that follow button and just keep listening and keep paying attention. I got a lot of things coming up. Different interviews, different shows coming up and gonna have more. So, that's where you guys can find me. Shout out to Fleet DJs, Fleet artists as well. Shout out to them. And yeah, and shout out to the Lord for, keeping me here and blessing me. And shout out to 290 Mo Podcast for having me.
Gratitude, gratitude, man. You're welcome back anytime, man. Enjoy the rest of your evening. In a minute, gang.